These are the original front self-rope jigs. So these have been in use since 1959.
No!
Mike Brewer and Edd China weren't just co-hosts. Edd was the godfather to Mike's shield. But in 2017, everything fell apart. At a car festival in Connecticut, Mike stood on stage and said Edd had done very bad things. Then he tweeted that Edd stabbed him in the back. He deleted it fast, but fans saw it. What happened between two men who worked together for 13 years? Mike says Edd changed and became difficult. Edd says Mike sided with the network. But there's more to his story than creative differences. Today, we're revealing what really tore them apart. Mike Brewer was born on August 28, 1964 in Lambeth, South London. At a time when cars weren't just machines, but a way to stand out. His father, Roger, was a car customizer who worked on vehicles in their small garage. While his mother, Doreen, kept the household running. Roger's pride and joy was a heavily modified Ford Popular he nicknamed Mr. Popstar. It was loud, colorful, and famous in the neighborhood. Mike was only 5 when he first sat in that passenger seat, listening to his father talk about carburetors and horsepower. Most Ford Populars only had about 30 horsepower. But Roger had tweaked his to skis out more than 35. That driveway became Mike's first classroom. By the time Mike turned 10, Roger had turned the garage into a makeshift workshop, fixing up cars for locals on weekends. Mike became his right-hand man, passing tools, rewiring headlights, and learning to diagnose engine problems just by listening. One weekend, they bought a battered Austin A40 for $15 and spent months restoring it. Mike learned how to free up rusted bolts, patch dents, and haggle at car boot sales. Roger showed him how to spot cars with good bones, vehicles that looked rough but were worth saving. They'd go to boot sales where sellers wanted $30. And Roger would show Mike how to point out flaws and get the price down. Even before he got to secondary school, Mike was learning how to turn wrecks into money. At 14, he decided to go solo. He'd saved up $50 from his paper route, putting away a few pounds each week, and bought a rusty beige Mini 800 cubic centimeters from a neighbor. It was far from perfect. The handbrake didn't work and there was rust everywhere, but Mike saw potential. Over the next few months, he and Roger searched junkyards for cheap replacement parts. A new handbrake cable was $3. Floor panels cost 8 tons, and a local friend offered to respray the car for $25. Mike got his hands dirty every weekend, replacing brake shoes, fitting rubber seals, and even trying his hand at bodywork. After about 85 in repairs, he sold the car for $250. That $115 profit felt huge and confirmed what he already knew: this was what he wanted to do. At 16, as soon as he left school, Mike got an apprenticeship at a used car dealership in South London. They mostly dealt in old British lay-in cars. Mike was given a notepad and told to cold call sellers using a payphone outside the shop. Within a few weeks, he found a 1972 Vauxhall Viva HC with nearly 90,000 miles. The elderly seller wanted $180, but Mike pointed out the worn clutch and tires and got it for $150. He persuaded his boss to take the risk. After spending just $30 on basic repairs, the car was sold for $350 in under 2 weeks. Mike earned a $20 toll commission, the first money he made purely from his negotiation skills. By 19, Mike had left the dealership and was running his own weekend trading operation. He'd buy damaged cars from Monday auctions, fix them up during the week, and sell them on Saturdays for quick profits. He focused on cars that looked bad but were mechanically sound. He'd buy them for $100 or $200, fix them cheaply, and resell for up to $600. By the time he was 21, he had saved about $5,000, nearly $15,000 in today's money. He avoided taxes by keeping sales under the $1,000 threshold and sticking to cash. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. Those years taught him how to judge cars fast, spot profits quickly, and always keep the cash moving. As he got older, Mike kept building his name in the trade. In the late 1980s, while others were dreaming about showrooms, he was out in London's car markets, flipping used vehicles with little more than his charm and street smarts. His reputation grew not for flash, but for honesty. People trusted him because Heg knew what to look for and didn't pretend a car was better than it was. Over time, he opened his own 4044 center in southern England, importing cars and making deals with buyers from all over. It was all built on instinct and hustle, not corporate training or flashy branding. By the early 1990s, he was expanding. He wasn't just flipping cars anymore. He was building a proper network. He knew how to negotiate both ways, getting a good price from the seller and making the buyer feel they'd found something special. He wasn't selling Ferraris or Porsches. These were regular cars priced right, sold with confidence. His style caught the attention of people in the TV world, even though he never chased the spotlight. In 1992, he married Michelle, a woman who shared his love for motors and would quietly become a key part of his success. Born in 1962, she understood the grind and supported Mike through every career twist. They had a daughter, Chloe, and kept their family life private. In 2018, Mike proudly shared a photo of her graduation. On their anniversary in 2024, Mike wrote on Instagram, "How did I get so lucky?" 34 years together and 21 happily married, Michelle had been there from the early hustle to the media pressure, often helping him deal with the emotional weight of public life. Mike's break into TV happened by accident. One day, he picked up the phone at a friend's place and ended up talking to a producer. They got to chatting, Mike shared stories, and before long, he was cast in a news show. That show was Deals on Wheels and it aired in 1998. He teamed up with Richard Sutton and helped teach people how to spot good used cars. It wasn't fancy, but viewers loved it. Just a few weeks into the show, Top Gear took notice and tried to bring him over, but Mike ended up negotiating a second gig instead, another show called Driven, where he worked alongside Jason Barlow and a young James May. By 2002, Driven had wrapped up and the BBC was retooling Top Gear. Mike's contract ended and new offers came in. One from Discovery Channel stood out. Back then, Discovery mostly showed documentaries about mountain climbers and wildlife, but they wanted to build a car show, and they wanted Mike to help shape it. He worked with the producers to turn a simple 5-minute idea into something bigger. Buying, fixing, and flipping cars. At first, they called it Grand Autos, but Mike's company was already named Wheeler Dealer Limited, and the name stuck. Meanwhile, Edd China was born on May 9, 1971 in London, but spent most of his early life in Surrey. He went to King Edward's School in Whitley, Surrey, where his fascination with mechanics started to form. While stories float around about him taking apart a bicycle engine at age 6 or rummaging through his father's stash of 1950s motorcycle parts, there's no firm evidence to back those specific claims. What we do know is that his curiosity for how things worked showed up early, and that interest stuck with him as he grew up. By 1989, Edd was enrolled at London South Bank University studying engineering product design. He needed money for an expedition to Bice scheduled for 1991, and instead of taking the usual route like getting a part-time job, he decided to build something no one else had, amateurized sofa. He called it the Casual Ufa. It was exactly what it sounded like, a leopard print living room sofa powered by a 1.3L mini engine. The steering wheel was made from a pizza tray. It let them slow down, go deeper. Brewer would talk about the car's legacy. Then Edd would walk viewers through every fix, every bolt, every gasket. The transparency, profit or loss was always shown. That built loyalty. People didn't just watch Wheeler Dealers, they trusted it and they talked about it. By 2011, things got bigger. They crossed the Atlantic, Series 8 took them into America. That opened a whole new chapter. Now they were chasing down rust-free classics and muscle cars in places like California and Chicago. By Series 12, they had a full-time U.S. workshop in Huntington Beach. First at Redondo Circle, then later at a better space on Research Drive. No more shipping cars to the UK, they bought, fixed, and sold in the US, making the operation smoother and more profitable. But behind the scenes, it was brutal. They were filming 6 days a week, 17 hours a day. Those clean workshop scenes, they were the hardest to shoot. Nothing could be faked. Edd insisted every fix be real. That meant long takes, waiting for parts, hours off-wrenching. While other car shows cut corners or added scripted drama, wheeler dealers stayed real. But that came at a price physically and mentally. As the seasons piled up, tension started to build. Edd wanted more time for technical segments. For him, the repairs were the core of the show, but producers started cutting that down. They preferred faster edits, more of Mike's buying and selling. Edd quietly pushed back. Mike stayed aligned with the producers. He saw change as necessary. Edd saw it as compromise. By the time Velocity took over in 2016, things snapped. The network trimmed episodes to 43 minutes. Workshop time went from 20 minutes down to 15. That wasn't just editing. That was erasing the hard oaf's work. He couldn't condense real repairs into short clips and still call it honest. He went public, told fans the truth, said cutting corners would betray the spirit of the show. He refused to be part of it. Mike saw things differently. He felt they needed to evolve, keep it entertaining, stay relevant. To him, the workshop was important, but not the whole package. He admitted Edd had become harder to work with. Edd said Mike had changed, too. They were no longer aligned. It wasn't just creative. It got personal. They weren't just co-hosts. Edd was godfather to Mike's child. That's how close they were. But in 2017, when Edd left, the silence between them was loud. Edd later said, "Is he my favorite person right now? Probably not." Mike hinted Edd had attitude problems. Whatever friendship they had, it took a hit. Neither outright attacked the other, but they both stopped pretending. Edd's stance stayed clear. He wasn't in it for fame. He believed the work mattered, that you couldn't rush repair just because a network wanted tighter edits. He worried fans would copy things they saw on screen and get hurt if the instructions were incomplete. He stuck to his standards, even if it meant walking away. Mike saw it differently. He said Edd just didn't want to work as hard, that he resisted the TV star life. Whatever the truth, their split wasn't about one episode. It was about years of tension, edits, budgets, and vision. On March 21, 2017, Edd China quietly sat down in his workshop and recorded a video that would change everything for Wheeler Dealers fans. He wasn't angry or loud. He just explained step by step why he was leaving the show after 13 years. The problem started when the American network Velocity took over. They told Edd the show was too hard to make in its current style. What they wanted was faster, simpler, cheaper. But that meant cutting down on the workshop scenes. The very part of the show that made it different. The part where he explained repairs in full detail with proper tools and real steps. They told him to skip that. He refused. He said if he started cutting corners on camera, it would set a bad example. So instead of lowering his standards, he walked away. He didn't list every disagreement, but you could tell there were many. Edd's way off working. Measuring alignments with precision, using high-end tools, showing the full process, was too slow for TV executives focused on speed. They didn't want viewers to see the hard parts. They just wanted to show the car magically fixed. Edd knew people were watching and learning. He believed if he faked it on screen, someone at home might try to follow along and get hurt. That was the line he wouldn't cross. The production side didn't like how long things took. A proper suspension repair could take days to film. That meant a big crew, long hours, expensive edits. Velocity wanted to move faster. Their plan was to get outside shops to fix things off camera, then just film the presenters pretending to install the last part. It was cheaper. It was easier. But it wasn't honest. Edd's workshop was full of tools she trusted. Solar helmets, alignment rigs, handmade gadgets. All of it was there for a reason. The network wanted it gone. When the video went online, fans went wild. People weren't mad at Edd. They were furious at the show, but some of that anger got misdirected. Mike Brewer, Edd's co-host, took the full blast. People thought he pushed Edd out. Within hours, his social media was flooded. It got so bad his wife and daughter started receiving threats. Real threats. Edd had to post another video just to